Hello and welcome to Arts Dynamics Talks, our unplugged live stream series every Thursday this spring in 2025. I am Sofie Marin, I'm founder and CEO of Arts Dynamics, and every week I bring on exciting guests, experts, thought leaders, visionaries, and creators from all over the world to come in and share what they are seeing right now that's working in our industry, what's not working, what are they up to. It's almost like a flying reporter, reporting in from the field. And today is no exception. And I'll introduce our guest in just a few seconds. You can already see him on the screen for those of you who are now joining us live. I just wanted to make a little bit of an introduction to the guest today because, this means a lot to me. For those of you who followed me in Arts Dynamics since we started, you know that we're all about service and giving back and the importance of being there for one another. I mean, we are a learning community network after all. We've got the academy, meetups and talks, and now even a creative lab. And one person who really is a good example of that is our guest today, Roland Williams. So first of all, I'll actually say hi, Roland. Welcome to this show.
Thank you. Thank you so much.
Yes. And I remember, and I just want to share this story before we dive into this lunch hour. I remember when you and I met the first time, I was introduced to you via a mutual friend, Usman. So hi, Usman, if you see this. And he introduced us to each other. And immediately you invited me onto your podcast. It was for your book. This one, we're going to talk more about that, The Principles of Entrepreneurial Capital. And ever since, not only were you so generous to bring me in and to help spread the word about Arts Dynamics. You attended our meetups. You've also actually been there as a guest expert, and you helped us kick off the season 24-25. And in addition to that, you were the first founding member to join our meetup membership. And also, you were the one who sparked our Spatial Art Gallery. So as you can imagine, for those of you listening now, Ro has a very special and very dear place in my heart. So today, Ro, it's all about you. And this is my way and our way to giving back to you. So hi and welcome so much today.
Oh, fantastic. Thank you so much.
You are an artist, you are an author, you're a musician, you are a leader in this field, you're out teaching and training, you're a consultant, you worked at the big agencies, you worked at Coca-Cola. Can you please just share a little bit more about yourself and what led you to be the awesome human being that you are today?
Wow. I guess I started out very early in my life. I discovered that I really enjoyed drawing. First, it was comic books and, drawing Bugs Bunny for my classmates and that kind of thing. And I was encouraged. My parents encouraged me. They didn't really necessarily know how to draw or play an instrument or whatever, but they encouraged me and said, well, if you're going to make that little stick figure, that person probably needs a jacket. So why don't you add a jacket? Or what about some shoes? And so I started out very, very young drawing, and I just couldn't get enough. And that kind of, I don't know, it kind of opened up a whole new world for me. And later on, I started I played guitar and, a lot of music as well. So things just started to flourish. And I guess when I went to the university and I started studying psychology first, but then met an art professor who really kind of, said to me one day, have you thought about studying art as your major? And I said, well, no, I'm studying psychology. I'm doing this. And he said, well, you should think about it. You've got something. It could be developed, but think about it. And I did, and I think that decision changed my life, really, changed the trajectory that I was on. I still am interested in psychology, of course, but just choosing that as my major, fine arts, it really, really changed. And I also had a mentor, my mentor, Bill Houston, Charles Houston in Tennessee. He really, meant so much to me those formative years. to help me to sort of see things in a different way, to understand what I was doing and my intentions for art. And it actually has carried on in other parts of my career as well. So that's the short story.
Yeah, what I love is that you've got both the heart and soul of the artist, and I mean, your artwork is just incredible. For anybody listening in, I highly recommend you check out our Spatial Art Gallery, our mixed reality art gallery that we created at a hackathon, a prototype for, because Ro was actually the one who sparked the idea for that one. When you said during a workshop previous, you said, why don't you set up an Arts Dynamics art gallery, on a virtual one, where for people like myself, where we can showcase our art, and that led to us building a prototype in 24 hours. So I just want to say to everybody listening in that go and check that out, because you will see some of Ro's artwork in that Spatial Art Gallery. And obviously you can, and I'm going to ask you at the end also where people can find out more information about that. But how do you find, Ro, your background in art and music, but also being a leader, working both sort of, you were connecting in as an artist and creator yourself, but also as a leader and a consultant working with entrepreneurship. How does that work?
Yeah, I used to see creativity and business strategy as kind of two completely different worlds. So early on in my career, I was at IBM and then Coca-Cola. I guess the brilliant ideas were often tossed away because they just didn't fit the mold, the traditional business mold. And that's why entrepreneurship really means so much to me. I guess I learned that a great idea shouldn't be tossed aside. It should be repackaged in a way. It just needs to be put into a framework of some kind. And then, so if you're into product design or development or whatever, you've got to motivate why the idea should be put into a product roadmap and why it should be done right away. And I think that's really kind of been made clear to me. And that means that when things have to be packaged so that business leaders understand the value, that's when you can have a breakthrough.
Yeah.
And I would like to, I guess I would liken it to being invited to a board meeting, right? You have a big company and you start singing Imagine by John Lennon. Everybody knows that song. The board members would probably like it, but the only way for them to really, really start singing along with you is if there's an action plan. Like, how do we realize what we're imagining? So, and that's the way to drive real change. I think that's the only way to do it. They've got to lean in.
Yeah, totally. And I'm really happy that we're having this conversation today, because we really strive to be on point with what's going on in not only in the cultural and creative industries, but in the world as a whole. And today we are going to focus in on entrepreneurship and the business side and monetization of creativity and all of that. But also, as you mentioned, the intrapreneurship for organizations and how to actually harness creativity and innovation within organizations. So we prepared actually a few talking points today, but since this is a live session, I've noticed that people are also joining us and saying hello in the chats. I just want to say hi, we see you, we really appreciate you commenting, and feel free to ask any questions. Let us know who you are, where you are coming in from. We always love to get to know all of you in our community, so feel free to do that, and we'll see if we can also pull in questions for Ro during this session. And we're going to stop on time as well. So I want you to know that. So at 1 p.m. Swedish time sharp, this session will be over for this week, and then we'll prepare for the next week. But for now, Ro, we've talked a little bit about talking points for today. And what I really would love to know first and foremost is, in a world where creativity is often seen as a separate from business strategy, and you touched on that just now, how would you say that entrepreneurship, let's start there, bridge the gap for thought leaders and innovators?
Has bridged the gap for thought leaders and innovators.
Yeah.
Yeah, I talked a little bit about these things being repackaged before, and I think that creativity, it shouldn't be necessarily seen as separate from business strategy.
Yeah.
I think that that's the thing that we need to kind of reassess in a way. And there really is, if you find that bridge, and I believe that having a framework can help. It's just finding that bridge to sort of motivate why the idea should be done in the first place. That's really it.
Yeah.
More than that.
Yeah, that's good. And we have a lot of organizations in our network too. And one might think in the cultural and creative industries that we are all about creativity, but as a matter of fact, that's often not the case. Many want to be at the forefront of new innovation. They want to be pioneering, but at the same time, creativity finds it hard to find a place inside the organization. So again, I really want to highlight to everybody your work, the Principles of Entrepreneurial Capital. You've written it together with Albert Bengtsson and Brigitte Scherne. So we'll actually add a link to this as well, because you do have that framework in this book. And speaking of, you have worked extensively on different frameworks for innovation. So why would you say that structure is so important for creators? This is actually one of the biggest challenges I hear as well from creators, that they ask for structure. One might think that they would ask for monetization, but they actually ask about help with structure and how it can actually enhance their ability to innovate. So would you mind just sharing from your perspective your thoughts on that?
Yeah, sure. I mean, the word structure, is just loaded, right? I mean, when you hear structure, it might sound like a box, something that sort of confines your creativity. But I think it's quite the opposite. I mean, a musician spends years sometimes mastering scales and chords, but when the moment comes, they can improvise, and sometimes really beautifully. And I think that it's really about being prepared for spontaneity, if you know what I mean, so you can flow. So whatever I would say to all of the creatives out there, and I mean, it's the gamut, right? Whatever your bag is, if it's music design, choreography, if you're an artist, if you're a painter, sculptor, or copywriter, even, whatever it is. I think being prepared and having structure is a good thing. So I read somewhere that design is what happens when creativity meets science. So I would say think of structure as science. It's like a solid foundation to launch your creative ideas. So having a framework means that you kind of, what steps to take, like from ideation to execution. And that's, again, science. But you need that creativity and it's sort of to have the clarity to fan the flames of your creative fire, if you will, so you're more confident.
Yeah, and maybe also as an entrepreneur to have that structure and to have that daily discipline that you can fall back to or lean into. As you said, it just helps you navigate, I guess, what's going on. And especially today, we often hear, there's so much going on in the world. And right now, it's like there's always stuff going on. There will always be outside drama. There will always be outer events that will one way or the other pull us in different directions. And what I'm hearing you say is that the structure will help you just align yourself, basically, whether it is your creativity, but maybe also your business, right?
Yes, but I think that because we're so vulnerable as creatives, we're very vulnerable. We put ourselves out there, put our, necks on the chopping block, so to speak, all the time. We're on stage, the spotlight is on us. And that is very uncomfortable. And in a way, it's also part of who we are, what we do, to deliver something wonderful and kind of unproven, if you will. It takes that, it requires that to be vulnerable, to dare to do something. And that's why I think that having some structure and being prepared can build your confidence as a creative. In other words, like, okay, well, I may not have all the answers, but I have a way of getting this out there. And I use the example of, jazz musicians playing or whatever you do. But if you're going to improvise and you have learned, the melodies, the scales, the circle of fifths, or whatever it is, the theory behind things, and then it's time to actually improvise. It's like a language. You have more in your vocabulary, and you can begin to use metaphors and allegory and all kinds of stuff if you've studied, if you've practiced, if you've used those things. And all of a sudden you're flowing and ideas are happening, and you're even helping someone to not just understand, but helping someone to experience what you want them to experience, perhaps, or maybe even more than that.
Yeah.
That makes some sense.
Yeah, it does. And what would you say, your piece of advice, because again, this is one of the most common questions I get asked about the structure and the self-discipline, even though they don't often use the word self-discipline. For those of you listening now live, let me know, have you ever thought about it from a self-discipline point of view, or do you feel more that you are in need of more structure or clarity and direction around that? Do you have any sort of, because you mentioned like practice obviously makes perfect and all of that, and in music, as you mentioned, as an example, we do have certain limitations. As you said, people might think that improvisation is just free flowing, but obviously you do have a structure to that you have to use. Exactly. So do you have, apart from improvisation, do you have any sort of concrete advice, let's say top 3 things that creators could implement or use in their daily activities to get more structure, both privately and professionally? Does that make sense, the question?
Yeah, it does.
I mean, structure is great, but it's like, how do you get more structure?
How do you get more structure? Okay, well, we can start with, this is just my own personal, thing. I'm not pushing it on anyone else. It may not work for everyone, But I think that structure can be something as simple as a calendar, your calendar. If you're going to meet with someone, you probably ought to book a meeting and have it written down, like if you use a book, or do you use a calendar on your phone or whatever it is, but make sure that you have that down for yourself and for the other person. That's structure. And that is, you respect that structure, and you know that beforehand you should be at a certain place or be online or whatever it is, that you have a commitment. That's structure. It could also be that there are certain times of the day, maybe, and this is, again, not for everyone, but maybe there are certain times that there may be a routine in the morning when you get up and if you meditate or whatever you're going to stretch. That's structure to your day, and it can also help your work, right? To have clarity. Right now, I've got 2 cups of water in front of me, right? Now, why do I have that? Well, I'm in this little booth, and I need to keep drinking water. I'm actually forcing myself to drink more water. To me, that's part of structuring my day. Even that,
Yeah, that's great. I'm also a certified high performance coach, and one of the high performance coaching exercises that we do is you can also enter into your phone. So that's a tip of advice for everyone. Just add, like Ro mentioned, water. Just set an alarm and write down in the notes, drink water. It's just like simple little things like that to just help you connect in with those daily habits to help you with the structure. Thank you so much, Ro. I think the structure part is often underestimated because we talk a lot about, what do we want? Or as creators, we jump from one thing to the next. But it's like, if you don't have a structure to actually support you, it's not sustainable. And the minute you start to scale or to grow or to promote, if you don't have a structure to support you in that, it's very easily, we often tend to get overwhelmed or burned out. And it's like this this repeat cycle. So I think this is an important topic that we're having. So thank you so much. I've got a few more questions. I'm going to just plow through them because there are many things I'd love to ask you today. So from your experience working as an artist, drawing, painting, designing, playing music, writing, and holding creative roles at those major companies that you mentioned, what lessons have you learned about how to unlock your potential in a structured environment? This is key because not everybody works as a freelance, as a solo creator. They actually work in organizations. Right. So that's why this question is super important. So what would you say to that?
Well, yeah, when I started out, I guess I was, let's say I was in my mid-20s or so, and I was at IBM for a while as a designer, and then I left to become part of the in-house agency at Coca-Cola. We had a great time at headquarters there in Atlanta. And there, the team, we had an in-house agency that created the content for corporate communications. So like all the trade shows, the films, the keynotes, you name it. And I remember feeling really out of place in a room full of suits and I guess you'd say spreadsheets, right? Excel spreadsheets is how it felt. But what I didn't really realize is that I would also gain a fantastic manager and a mentor in the process who would really coach me through the next 5 years. So I'd go out to the courtyard, and he smoked, but he would go out to the courtyard at headquarters, and he would say, so how are you going to deliver the project on time? This kind of thing. And he would challenge me. What resources do you need? Who's in the studio to work with you right now? What's your budget? And when I told him what the budget was or what I had thought the budget should be, he would often say, double it, because you'll probably run out of that, or this will happen or that'll happen, and you need to have some more room in there for your budget. So I learned a lot from him, and I discovered that structure, speaking of structure, we can actually amplify your creative potential, and it's our creative potential, because it was a team of people, right? It wasn't just me, which is another kind of, I would say, rabbit hole that I would love to go down if anybody wants to talk about that. The rabbit hole of you can do so much more beyond your own two hands, so to speak, or whatever your limitations are. And that's something that I'll just quickly say that when I got to Coca-Cola, I think that's also something that was a major thing that happened to me. I realized that, wait a minute, I don't have to design everything with my own bare hands on this Quadra 950 or whatever, and sending things to the ACOM to be rendered or whatever in the middle of the night. Wait a minute, Nick is really good at 3D, and Robert's really good at Photoshop, and Nikki's very good at, and Brent's really good at this. And we realized that, wait a minute, if we just did this together. So I was promoted and became a project manager for all of those design questions, issues, and projects, and started to really, really just involve everyone in what we could do together as a team. And that's when things took off for me. And I really felt like, speaking of entrepreneurship, I didn't even know how to spell the word back then. It happened. And I just felt like there was so much more that could be done. I didn't feel like I needed to control all of our creative output. It was quite the opposite. It was like the palette just kind of grew in front of my eyes. Like, wait, we have more colors, we have more things. Wow, we can paint with this now. And it just took off from there. So my manager, Rod, he really taught me about what the executives really needed and the decision-making process, what the mission of the company really meant, why everything they did had to lead to shareholder value. And he sent me over to work with the speech writers so I visualized all the presentations for the key accounts and all that stuff. So my biggest lesson at that point was learning how to shape our creative ideas into projects. And I still felt that it needed to resonate both on an artistic and a strategic level. So it wasn't that I sort of negated anything or left the creativity. It's sort of, how do we marry the two? How do we retain our creative, integrity, of course, and achieve the mission? That's kind of what happened in that environment. And after a while, I knew how to deliver it. I could say we could deliver things on time and under budget. And I could do it with a certain amount of confidence because I also was in touch with everyone on an individual basis, to understand, well, what's the process here? How long is this going to take? What else do you need? What are the hindrances? What if somebody's sick? What if somebody, and we had a great time. So the structure didn't take away the magic. It just made everyone in the studio to, I would say, channel our efforts into something so much better.
Yeah, and what I really take away from this conversation and previous ones we've had, you and I, is how you combine the structure and the framework and all of that and the mastery of that with working together with other people, but from an abundant mindset. And this is really a shout out to everybody listening. Please, if there is one key lesson from this talk today, be in an abundant, service-minded mindset. And Ro, you're such a wonderful example of that. When you don't shrink down, or you're not too protective, or you're not too controlling, but rather, of course, you have a strong purpose and vision and mission and why. I mean, that's what we talked about even at our first meetup when you were the guest speaker, right?
Yes.
But it's really about how you can stay aligned in your own creativity, your artistic vision, and everything that you want to do, but at the same time have trust and faith that when we come together and share, it's like love grows when we share it. It's not like we eat food and it disappears. It's actually
100%.
So a super important key takeaway there. I also, there's another thing that you really master really well. A lot of really is there, but that's actually the power of storytelling. And from from a creative perspective today, when you create, you market, and you sell, it always comes down to often a missing piece of ingredient, which is storytelling. So why would you say that is such an important part to drive innovation, to drive change, to grow and scale, if you want to scale as an entrepreneur, go deeper?
Right.
Storytelling and also if you have any advice for all of us who wants to know more about storytelling.
Okay, well, yeah, I mean, a great story, it kind of pulls you in, first of all. And I would say, if you think about any of your favorite movies or maybe that book that you just can't put down, what is it about that? And it's most likely that there's something about it that's kind of tugging on your heartstrings, right? So in every workshop, I try to put context above everything else. I think context is really the word that I would recommend looking into, and that is that people in the room, when they're in a workshop setting, or maybe you're just doing a talk, or it's like this right now, that they're there for a reason. I can imagine everyone listening to this right now, and I hope we get a chance to chat a little bit. They're here for a reason. They might appreciate the facts. They want to hear, how do you do something, or whatever else, some skill, upskilling or reskilling, or, that kind of thing. But when they can hear it in a compelling story, that's what makes them care about the facts. It's that's the thing that needs to sort of be presented here. I think it's about caring about the facts, not just the information, in other words. So context, I think, is a direct result of intention. What do you intend for the audience to think, feel, and do, as I like to say in my workshops? You think, feel, and do, right? Whatever you're telling them, what do you want people to think about this? What do you want them to feel about it? And what do you want them to do with this information? And those are the takeaway messages. The ones that really stick are the ones that connect emotionally. So when you tell a story, it's not just informing someone about a topic. You're inviting them to be I would say, a part of a journey. And a good storytelling, it'll morph something that's really abstract into something that's relatable. I guess that's what I would say about it.
Yeah, that's wonderful. And when you said that, it made me think of a pitch deck I'm working on right now. And when I started working on the first pages, I was like, imagine a world. I was getting all inspired there and creative. And I was like, imagine a world without music. Dum, 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 you know, and then I was like, oh no, that's horrible. It's like, imagine a world without arts and culture. It's like, no. So that's the entry point into the whole pitch deck. So speaking of, we have actually a comment here. This is a very on point that needed to be said for me, says Tobias. So thank you so much for that feedback. Yeah, this is important storytelling. And I think this is, you know, often, especially when we talk about marketing and sales as artists and creators, it's like there's no traction, or why are not people buying from us, and why can't I get through the noise on social media? But it just keep on working and tweaking and refining the message and the language you're using until you find that very sweet spot. We've just did that with Arts Dynamics when we started with the space mission, the Cultural Center on Mars. I've never had so many people suddenly just flow into want to join our groups and everything. Yeah,
right. No, but I'd like to comment on that, Sofie, because I think that you are really amazing. And one of the reasons why that it's your message is getting through is because you're authentic. And authenticity is something that is so underrated. We're inundated by messages all the time, right? Messages are in our social media and in our lives now. They're just, and we're going to have more of them to deal with. Authenticity is key to really, really succeed. It's not going to be, in other words, having that slick call to action at the end, or always be selling, or all that. Sure, we can go through that, but I think it's authenticity. And it just reminded me of a story. Very quickly, I'll try to tell this story. I was probably in my early teens or so, and at the time I was struggling with algebra. And I had this incredible math teacher who realized that there was something going on. I just didn't break through when it came to algebra. And he pulled me aside one day after class and he said, I have an idea. I see that you're pretty good at drawing and whatnot, and I think that we should have a few tutoring sessions. I'm going to come to your house and we'll talk about that. Let's see what we can do. And I was really nervous. I thought, oh no, he's come to the house and my parents would be all up. So what are you doing? What's the problem? So he comes to the house on a Saturday and I'm really nervous. He says, go get some paper and a pencil and let's just take it easy. They're at the kitchen table. And he says, there is someone about your age at a train stop, like a train station, sitting outside. He said, do you see that? I said, yes. He said, draw it. Make a little sketch. Okay. Now, and then he goes through this scenario. Okay, this person, kind of like a guy like you, and he's about your age. He's sitting on a bench waiting for a train. The train arrives at 5 o'clock. He's going to Boston, yada, yada, yada. He tells this story. And then he says, what is X? Like he gives me some sort of equation. And then he says, what's X? And I get it right. Which made me feel great. But what happened there was that he understood that I needed to understand or see the problem. In other words, all of the numbers and all of the letters and all the stuff was just kind of, I don't know, it just wasn't working in the classroom. When I actually sat and had the time and could see the scenario, I could do the math. And I was great at it. And actually, over time, the next few weeks, my God, I got most of the answers right. So all of a sudden, my confidence, my self-esteem, everything was, and I went back into class and I started to do fantastic at math. But he understood that I needed to have it presented in a different way. And I think that's what I mean by an authentic story. Now, I just told you something that was really deep and has transformed, my life in so many ways. Because if he had not, I get emotional telling this story. If he had not invested his time and came to the house and taught me that way, in a way that I needed to have it taught, I wouldn't be here today. No. I would have maybe thought that my that I had some sort of problem, or that I wasn't adequate in this area or that area, whatever. It could have just destroyed me. But anyway.
Wow, thank you.
I think to dare to be authentic with your storytelling, that's the most important thing.
It is. Thank you so much for sharing that. Thank you so much for sharing that. There's so many people out there, creators in this community outside, that are carrying stories similar to yours. And we just don't know. We see them and we make assumptions, or
that's right.
We there's so many things we don't see about each other. So thank you for opening up about that.
Absolutely.
Yeah. Let's actually take a little bit of a moment to think about what Ro just said. It goes for all of us here, because I think, speaking of authenticity, right now we are, speaking of where we are right now in time and place, we are just now on the cusp of AI, reaching AGI. We see all these AI bots everywhere. There is no longer, it's not longer possible to differentiate sometimes between who's human and who's not. So speaking of authenticity, there are a lot of discussions going on right now about AI and creativity, and can AI fool us? And because normally we say like, oh, AI cannot be, creative, or it cannot be compassionate or authentic or genuine. But the thing is, what we see more and more is that we are being tricked into thinking or feeling that AI actually can be all these things. So what you just shared, for us as humans, how we can distinguish ourselves, and maybe also the role of the artists in today's society.
Right.
How do we make sure, I guess that's a follow-up question then. Number one is to be aligned with our own story, the one that you shared.
Yeah.
How do we ensure that we can be authentic and genuine in a landscape where there are so many algorithms and censorships and AI filters between us and the people we want to reach? Is that too of a fluffy of a question?
No, it's not fluffy at all. I mean, I think it's about intention. What are we intending to do? When you walk into a room, when you meet someone for coffee, when you are in the context of meeting a client, perhaps, what's your intention? In fact, I think even who was it? Oprah Winfrey said that maybe my God, what's your intention? It's the first question she asks, actually, when she meets someone. And I think that's interesting. Now, there are lots of different ways to handle that, but I think that intention, to me, is should be at the core. And you kind of cut through the noise if you have that approach, whether you use the word intention or not. But if you have that approach and you actually say, okay, what's the intention here? When you approached me about even being on this podcast, your intentions were very clear. It's very important. There was nothing, there's no side angle or side hustle or some sort of underlying thing that you wanted to sell or whatever. No. Here's my intention.
Yeah.
And that is why this is going to matter, why this means something. Back to the authenticity. But the intention had to be there for it to happen this way.
Yeah. To be of service.
In this case, it was to be of service.
Yeah.
In another case, it could be something else. But my point is, though, intention should be clear. We should be willing to open up about our intentions. And I think that in my life, at least, playing a lot of music has helped that tremendously. Not the performance aspect, but having the intention when you are with a group of musicians, more musicians, even actually playing by yourself, if you're on stage by yourself, whatever. But I think that having the intention to play something from a place that is a little deeper than just the surface. In other words, you go a little deeper, dare to go deeper. And every single time that I've been able to tap into that, it's not always. That's when it happens.
Yeah.
And a couple of times, I can say maybe a handful of times, I've had the enormous honor of sharing that intention with several musicians at the same time. And that's been like, I mean, you're lifted. It's incredible when everybody's there and present and the intention is the same.
Yeah. And as you say, when you go deep, there is, I find, a lot of pressure. And I'm being mindful of it even when I use those words myself. For others or for myself and Arts Dynamics, the need to grow, to scale, to go big, to this extroverted energy. Whereas very often, especially for us in this field, it's not about scaling. It's not about becoming a multimillionaire. That's not the whole point. It is actually what you were talking about, the simplification, the going deeper, and to dare to say no to 9 things out of 10, to hone in on what really, really matters. And I love that about this conversation, that we're able to have that kind of a discussion.
Yeah.
And present moment. So going deep, appreciating the people who were there for us, like this person was for you. I've had mine. I'm sure people listening have also had that, and actually show that appreciation. But also knowing that we don't know who we touch when we see them, when we hold the space for them, when we give and serve without the need to get something back. We don't know what's going on in other people's lives. That is something I think about a lot. You know, it's almost like, who do you want to be? How can you show up in the world to be of service and be of value? Does that make sense?
Very much so. Sure.
Oh, wonderful conversation. So I'm actually looking into the questions and also where we are with our conversation now. It's like we had prepared questions for today, but also I really want to honor where this conversation is going, with the authenticity and with the going deep. I'm going to throw in this question that we talked about prior, and that is that many creatives struggles to balance their personal vision with the demands of the market. This is in alignment with what we just discussed. So what advice do you have for artists and creators who are really trying to navigate this?
To navigate? What do you mean? Unpack that for me.
Well, let's say, so many creators struggle to balance their personal vision with the demands of the market. So what advice do you have for artists and designers trying to navigate this tension, you know, the personal vision with the demands of the market? So it goes back to what we just discussed, you know, you have maybe something that you feel a calling, or you have that vision or your purpose, but at the same time there is a need. We can see that in television. In the music industry is a great example, where let's say you want to be a music artist, they bring you onto this big television shows, and then every week you are to perform and try out different songs and different clothing and this and that and the other, and the demand for you to be someone who you're actually not.
Right, I see. No, but the thing is, this is very interesting. That tension, I really understand that tension very well. But I would say it's also a very, very subjective topic. So I'm not going to really give any advice, but I can offer some food for thought. And I would say that when you think about all the hinders, the things that kind of are stopping you or, you know, blocking you from getting through the problems like if you maybe the lack of funding or resources, maybe you're an entrepreneur, you have an idea for something or other, you feel that they're holding you back from accomplishing your goals. I would say that to flip the script and look at them as more like creative challenges, so that you can use them to push through and to make it happen. There's an old adage, what is it? It's an old saying, I should say, necessity is the mother of all invention, right? And I think that sometimes it may be tough to see it, but just give it a shot. That's it. Just give it a shot.
Just give it a shot. Thank you for that. And I actually, as we are talking, I have to say that what you just shared really went rather deep. Not rather, it went really deep. And I just want to actually do, if that's okay, just a shout out to our community, just to say that I know that many right now are feeling overwhelmed, confused, stressed out because of where we are right now with world events, both locally, nationally, internationally. And I just want you to know that that's what we are about as a community. So if you do feel lonely, scared, you don't understand, there are things that feel just foreign, please reach out to us. Because Ledro shared so beautifully just now when he had someone there for him to hold the space for him. That's what we want to do for each other in this community. And I just want you all to know that you are not alone, and that Ro is here, we are here, and that's just what we're about. So I just wanted to say that. If you feel this, please reach out to us.
Yeah, and daring to open up. I mean, that network, the Arts Dynamics community, it means the world to me. There are also Arts Dynamics communities in your life, perhaps, that are not part of the Arts Dynamics community that we're talking about, but they are part of another Arts Dynamics community. And I think that if we just start to have that sort of mind shift, that we have these people in our lives that maybe we have a relationship with them, we can reach out to them, they're in our phones or whatever. Then we have some new people who potentially could also be very important to us. But we have to dare to take the time to get to know them. And that is sometimes, it's a little uncomfortable. Absolutely. It might not be a win-win-win every time you meet somebody at an event or a conference or whatever. But who knows? And sometimes it is. I have a dear friend who is in his early 90s now. And we meet, and he's such a dear friend to me. And it's just wonderful. We have a call today, actually, with another friend. And I don't know, that's something that I didn't expect to meet this person, 20 years ago or so. But I did. And that's what I mean. And also a fellow artist, is somebody, fellow creative. And that's just wonderful to be able to just chat about something or laugh. And even though he's from a different era, it's just we have so much in common. And I think that's, I don't know, there's just something special about that. So it doesn't have to be, it doesn't have to necessarily always lead to something great or, some big thing that you learned. But anyway, I would say just encourage everyone to tap into this network, meet someone, meet a few people, take it from there.
And as you say, it's about how you show up as well. And I know, so basically, this is a wonderful conversation we're having right now because we are really in the present and we're very in the now. I know that Brené Brown talks about vulnerability. She talks a lot about these feelings of shame and guilt and all of that. To be vulnerable and to be open and to share with that comes also a lot of fear of rejection, fear of abandonment, other sort of very strong feelings attached to that. And I know that she recommends that when you share and when you openly are vulnerable, make sure you do it with people who are also in the same arena as you.
Exactly.
But you don't always know that, do you? So, yeah, what are your thoughts on that? I mean, how... Or should we just open up and just trust that the people, maybe that is the answer. We open up and we are authentic and we are our full selves, and we trust and have faith that the people that resonate with that, they will be drawn to us, and it might repel others. What are your thoughts on that? How do we know when to be vulnerable and when not to? Because some people might also take advantage.
Yeah, absolutely. No, it's this is a tough one.
But we're going deep, so let's just go down this rabbit hole.
Yeah, sure. Okay. Well, here we go. I mean, I think, again, back to intention, knowing what your intention is, and actually being able to read the room can be a good rule of thumb, I think, personally. When you meet someone, or whether you're in a meeting with someone new or someone who you've known for a long time or whatever it is, that to sort of understand in the moment, is it time for this discussion, or is it time for me to say something about this? Is this the best platform for us to have this conversation? Now, today I shared that story, which came naturally. I hadn't planned on sharing it, but it was something that I felt like I wanted to do for this, or with this community, and it needed to be said. In other words, there was a strong feeling deep within me that said, tell that story. Now, again, like a musician would improvise. Okay, now I'm going to go here. Now I'm going to say this. Now I'm going to, this. And it happens instantly. But in order to do that, you should be prepared. So I'm going to go back to what I said, just to kind of reiterate a little bit. Being prepared. And when I say prepared, I don't mean with your storytelling. I mean prepared in the sense that, you know what? This event happened in my life, and it meant something. I wonder if this would help this person, or if I could share this, would it have perhaps to encourage them to keep going, to stay in there. It's okay. Someone who is perhaps struggling or has had trouble learning disabilities, or maybe they have dyslexia or something, or who knows. And maybe a story like that would encourage them, as an example, right? So we all are dealing, I think, to see that we're all dealing with different challenges, all of us.
Yeah.
And it's difficult to understand that when you see on social media that everybody's story is just brilliant and lovely and everybody's smiling and happy. That's not necessarily the case all the time for this person. So I think that if we're able to kind of have a very, very real conversation about that a little bit more often, and we also would understand that, okay, nobody's perfect, and I'm not alone, and it's okay, especially as creatives, especially us creatives. We need to open up and ask real questions. I volunteered at Hyper Island, which is a wonderful business school, and there are a lot of creatives there. So I'm on the steering committee for the digital creatives program there. And I just love it. It's fantastic. But I encourage the students to reach out to the network, to the industry leaders like myself or whatever, who can help them, make some sense of what's going on in the industry. So what should I be studying? What else should I be reading? Who should I talk to get an internship? Whatever it is. And we're trying to exercise that muscle. Let's go ahead and do it like this. Ask for a meeting, 15 minutes. Can we meet? connect with them on LinkedIn? Yes, no. Those are the kind of things that can help. But we have to be real and be willing to share those kinds of things, tactical things. Here's how you could possibly do it. And that takes some time, and it takes a little bit of patience.
Yes. Patience, dear Padawan, patience. Oh boy, I mean, this hour flies. For anybody listening in, please let us know what has been your biggest takeaway from today's talk. For me, it's been like this feeling just showered by grace and calmness, and this hour it's been magical in so many ways, Ro. Thank you so much.
My pleasure.
Is there anything, as we are about to wrap up, is there anything else that you would like to add to this conversation, where we are, what you've got around the corner, anything I haven't asked perhaps that you would like to share? Now is your time.
Wow. Well, right now I'm at Epicenter. We're planning for the next SIME conference, which is going to be exciting. And there's a lot of course, work with AI, and I've been doing a little traveling now. I think that AI, there's something about that we, the creative community, don't be afraid to understand what you can do with AI. I want to encourage everyone to kind of learn the ropes, understand what it possibly can do for your business or for you. You don't have to do it. I'm just saying it's okay if you check it out a little bit. In my work, I'm using it for, different strategies, or to help to understand quickly if we're going to build a business. What's the business model? What kind of channel strategy? What's the go-to-market? What else can we do? How can we formulate this value proposition? And you can quickly get a temperature reading on that idea if you explore. That's all. You don't necessarily have to use it word for word or believe everything it says, but it could really, really add some value to your creative process. So that's, I love that. I encourage that.
Yeah. And for your information, all of you here, is that we've got an Arts Dynamics Academy, a searchable online academy with the very latest in AI. So just keep an eye out, because we've got some news to be rolled out this spring. I cannot share all about it just now, but just stay in touch and keep an eye out on our social media, sign up to our newsletter. You'll be able to learn more from Ro and others, because you will be able to search this video, for instance, but also other things that we've got planned. And I'm really, really excited about that. So, oh, wow. What an hour, Ro. Wow. This has been absolutely brilliant. I want to thank you so much for joining us today and for sharing. Again, I want to highlight your book for people that want to know more about entrepreneurship. This is a brilliant book with lots of great frameworks. And speaking of frameworks and structure, not only explaining why it is important and how organizations can use and harness creativity and innovation, but also actual frameworks to make it happen in real time. And for us as entrepreneurs, obviously, there are a lot of takeaways here too, both for ourselves and when we grow and scale our teams, if we want to, with the caveat that maybe you don't want to. Maybe you want to have a lifestyle design that's just you and your business, or just you as an artist, a creator, or not just, but one person solo business. That's perfectly fine too. So with that, thank you. Where can people find out more about you, Ro?
Oh, I'm around. You'll find me.
Well,
I'm on LinkedIn, so feel free. Roland Williams. Maybe you can put in Roland Williams Sweden or something like that. There's only one real Roland Williams. No, I'm just teasing. But you'll find me there, and I'd be happy to chat. Just reach out there and let's get connected. Sure.
That's fantastic. We'll make sure to include your links. And final comment from a person who joined here says, everything has been extraordinary and felt so connected and in touch with emotions flowing and the hand you're reaching out. So thank you all so much for your wonderful comments. Thank you all for joining us live. And if you're watching or listening to the replay, give us a shout out, drop a comment below. Please help us spread the word and share this because we really just want to make a difference for creators worldwide and for people to know that actually it might feel a little bit daunting sometimes when we are by ourselves, but together things are pretty figure outable. And if we just follow Rose's advice here to actually just slow down, go deeper and get in touch with who we are and the bigger purpose behind it all, everything will be fine. Yes. So thank you again so much. So much love to you, Ro, and to everybody. And see you next week again. Thank you and over and out.